Here's a question nobody asks. Why is it that almost every ancient civilization on Earth, separated by oceans, languages, and thousands of years, eventually discovered fasting? Not dieting, not starving. Fasting. Different cultures, different religions, different philosophies, yet somehow they kept arriving at the same practice. And now modern science is asking a fascinating question. Were they noticing something real? Because what if fasting wasn't originally about punishment? What if it was about power? Think about how strange modern life is. For nearly all of human history, food wasn't guaranteed. There were seasons of abundance and seasons of scarcity, periods of feasting, periods of waiting. The human body evolved in that reality. Yet, today, many people live in an environment where food is available every hour of every day. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can satisfy a craving before the craving has fully formed. And that's unprecedented. Now, here's where things get interesting. Ancient people didn't have access to laboratories, but they had something just as powerful: experience. And they noticed something. When people voluntarily stepped away from constant consumption for a period of time, something changed. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. The first thing fasting reveals is something most people never notice: how much of our behavior is automatic. Watch what happens when you're hungry. Suddenly, there's a voice, a pull, a desire, a negotiation, a craving. And for many people, it's the first time they realize, I don't always control my impulses as much as I thought. That's not a weakness. That's awareness. And awareness is where freedom begins. Because the moment you notice a craving without immediately obeying it, you've created space between stimulus and response. That's a profound skill, not just for food, for anger, for addiction, for distraction, for fear, for every impulse that tries to take control of your life. The ancient masters understood something subtle. Fasting wasn't only about removing food, it was about observing attachment. What happens when you don't instantly satisfy every desire? What rises to the surface? Restlessness, irritation, anxiety, discomfort? Good. Now you're seeing the machinery. Most people spend their lives reacting unconsciously. Fasting allows you to watch the process in real time. And that's where transformation begins. Now, modern science has entered the conversation. Researchers have explored how fasting affects metabolism, insulin regulation, cellular maintenance processes, and other biological systems. The science is still evolving, and different fasting approaches have different effects. But one thing is clear: the body is not simply a machine designed for non-stop consumption. It appears remarkably adaptable, and many ancient practices may have emerged from people observing that adaptability firsthand. But honestly, the deepest lesson isn't biological, it's psychological. Because fasting asks a question modern culture rarely asks. Can you sit with desire without immediately satisfying it. Think about that. We live in a world optimized for instant gratification. Want entertainment? Instant. Want food? Instant. Want stimulation? Instant. Want distraction? Instant. And while convenience has its benefits, constant gratification can quietly weaken a person's relationship with discomfort. Fasting trains a different muscle, the ability to remain present when the mind says, I need this right now. Because often you don't. And discovering that is liberating. The craving feels permanent. Then it passes. The urge feels overwhelming. Then it passes. The discomfort feels unbearable. Then it passes. You begin to see that many things you thought controlled you only controlled you because you never stayed long enough to watch them fade. That's a powerful realization. Most people think freedom means getting everything they want. Ancient wisdom often pointed in the opposite direction. Freedom is not needing everything you want. Say that again, because that single shift changes everything. The person who must constantly consume is dependent. The person who can choose when to consume is free. And fasting at its deepest level is not about food, it's about reclaiming choice. So here's my question. What's something in your life that you immediately reach for whenever you feel uncomfortable? Food? Your phone? Social media? Noise? Distraction? Drop it in the comment. No judgment, just awareness. Save this video because this is one of those ideas that becomes more valuable every time you revisit it. Share it with someone who's interested in mastering themselves instead of being mastered by their impulses. And follow Source Force for more ancient wisdom, modern science, and hidden patterns shaping human existence, because sometimes the greatest power isn't found in having more. It's found in discovering how little you actually need. Until the next transmission, remember, we're all in this together, fam. One love.